evening, all, and thank you for tuning in again. I am Crystal Dunn, financial strategist, founder of the Amazing Woman Network, and host of Amazing Women Speak. It's a celebration of Black women by Black women, where we strive to bring info to uplift, inspire, and motivate every Black woman to own, honor, and execute her amazing as it was established at birth. Let's get to know who is here with us today. So first, I'm going to turn it over to my BFF, Miss Michele Harper.
Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us. We are excited to again engage in some conversation. My name is Michele Harper. I am the Diversity Director with Evident Change, and I'm also the owner, CEO of Agency Fitness, where we invite you to own your agency in all aspects of your life, both physical and spiritual. I am excited to have this conversation. Once again, we've got some dope ass women here for you tonight to help us unpack some more of the bullshit. I will, with much honor, first invite in a very dear friend, and really excited to be able to hear from a new friend tonight. But I first welcome in an old time friend, Judy, Neal. Come on in here, Judy.
Hello, and thank you. Thank you so very much for that wonderful introduction. And so again, good evening, good afternoon, and possibly good morning, as I understand the Amazing Woman Network reaches and is global. So again, thank you. Yes, my name is Judy Neal. I am founder and executive director of Empowered Voices. That is my passion as we get into the bullshit getting out of our way. I think my other direction was to kind of introduce what I do, I believe do I do that at this point? I do apologize. Okay. My day job, if you will, I am International Distribution Operations Manager for Ford Motor Company, which means I deal with ensuring our parts, our service parts in the automotive space are available for our warehouses and distributors outside of North America. So I'm honored to be a part of the conversation.
Thank you, Judy. I'd like to invite in now Kenyatta.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kenyatta Juniel. My day job, I am a program analyst for the Army, meaning I manage money for the Army. I am a civilian. They need some of us to hang back when the soldiers are out fighting, but that's what I do in my day job. However, after that, I actually run two businesses. The first is K Juniel Grant Writing and Consulting. I do grant writing and nonprofit consulting. Just wanting to help those who are helping the community to get the finances that they need to run their organizations. I also have a retail gift shop called A Box of Dazzle. I like to put a little dazzle in some gift giving. So that's me.
Awesome, thank you. Again, I told you, some amazing women joining us yet again. And I'm gonna invite Crystal back in to do a little level setting for us and pay some respects to our sponsor. And then we are going to dive into yet again the bullshit.
So this episode is again brought to you by the Amazing Woman Network, and it was created to unite Black women globally as we reclaim our personal power, mind, body, and spirit, our financial power, and increase our social awareness. So let's get into what this whole bullshit bar is. And so if you're new to this discussion, right, we've all heard the term raise the bar, and that bar is typically something that we aspire to reach, that we aspire to attain. And for the Black woman, society has created this bar, which I like to call the bullshit bar. And it's all of these things that you're supposed to do in order to fit in. You can't wear your hair as it grows out of your head, right? You can't be too dark, you can't be too light, you gotta your body has to look a certain kind of way, you gotta carry this bag, you gotta drive this car. It's all of this stuff that society says that we as Black women or women are supposed to be. The problem though is it's unattainable, It's unrealistic, it's ever moving, spirit killing, depression causing, self-hate evoking. It's that bullshit bar, right? And we know that the term bar just really truly means to keep out. And so how do you then, how do you even aspire to, or how do you reach the bar if it was designed to keep you out? And so we know that society has set up this bullshit bar for us, but we also know that our own bullshit gets in the way a whole lot of times from us stepping into our God-given greatness and owning our amazing. So I'm gonna kick it back to Michele. Michele, let's get this started so we can start to unpack our own bullshit.
Absolutely. So we invite you to be a part of this conversation. The chat is there for your use. Please share your thoughts and absolutely share your questions. We will bring those into this conversation. If it is for a specific person, please call that person in and they will respond to your question. If it's a general one, you will have the opportunity to hear from multiple voices. But this is a platform where you're going to hear from some dynamic women, and we want to hear from you as well. So the chat is there for you. And so let's begin this conversation. So talking about our own bullshit, right? Like we're just going to dive right into the deep. I am of the belief that as beautiful Black women, we do very little in shallow waters, right? So we're not even going to play there. We're not toe in tonight, right? Like we're going to launch into the deep. So when you start thinking about the bullshit, your very own, how we've been socialized to minimize how dope we are gets in the way so many times from us doing the thing. So I hear both of you talk about, right? Like you're your own CEOs, you're doing your own thing. You had to take a step to get there. What was the bullshit that interrupted you from doing this 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Let's unpack that, because there are some women out here who are doing that day job thing and can't figure out, right? Like how to get their own bullshit out of the way, be it fear, be it finances, whatever that looks like, that's going to have them pouring into themselves, as I hear the both of you are doing. So what was that thing for you? What was the bullshit that kept getting in the way from you living out your greatest purpose? Either one of you, come on in here.
I'll go ahead and jump in. So, as you spoke, I mean, you referenced fear. I think fundamentally, that is a challenge and a struggle for all of us, because it's the fear of the unknown, the fear of uncertainty, the fear of making a mistake. And I think most importantly, I know for myself, the fear of failure. If you've maneuvered in spaces where primarily you have always seen success rather quickly, challenges that may have been presented to you, you were able to manage or address, whether seamlessly. And when you're faced or when you're moving into a space, and if it is something that you are passionate about and you want to do it correctly, because of whatever that, I'll speak for myself. Let me just take off the generalities, right? Because we said we're uncovering this. We gonna hit it right here. It's not about the bullshit. We talk about family, and a lot of us sisters, we need to hear this unfiltered. So I'm gonna go there, and I just curse, so hopefully we don't get flagged. So for me personally, and Crystal knows this story, every time I talk to Crystal or she checks in on me, it gives me that fuel and energy to move out of my way, because I find every excuse to help everyone else instead of moving in the path that I know I need to be moving in. So Empowered Voices is a passion that focuses on voter education and engagement. It's political engagement, is being involved in this democratic process, right? And so one of those fears is, because it is so important, it is so dear to me, we have so many challenges, especially within our community. How do you tackle all of those challenges? Because there are so many, right? And so not trying to take the elephant, doing it a little bit at a time and doing it to the best of your ability, and being clear, being transparent, and being authentic. And so for me personally, that has helped me to move into the space of growing empowered voices, but I'm still in my own way. So this conversation is very important to help me continue to move out of my way, because that day job has set me up to, let's be honest, let's keep it real, to a lifestyle that I enjoy, the benefits that I'm accustomed to, because we've worked hard, we've gone to school, we've obtained the degrees, the like, what have you. And so why should I settle for less? So I'm going to pause right there because I want to hear what Kenyatta has to say, because she's doing some amazing things as well.
Let's see. So the one thing I would add to that is also the fear of rejection. So I call myself a recovering people pleaser all the time. And I realized that the main reason I did all of this people pleasing throughout my life was because I was afraid of getting rejected by people. So in my mind, if I do A, B, and C, then they'll like me, and then they'll still be around and they'll want me around. And so when trying to move forward with anything, there's always that fear of, well, if I put this business out there, what if no one likes it? What if no one's going to want my services? What if no one is willing to pay my fee? And just those kind of things. And because I know how I can react to rejection, like it's been some times where I've really felt like it's like broken me, for at least a temporary period. So just being afraid to go back to a place where I'm just feeling very, very broken, very sad because of dealing with the rejection, it's enough to make me say, you know what, I'm not going to do whatever the thing is. I'm not going to do that because it's scary and I don't want to be rejected. And so it takes a lot, like, to push through that and do whatever the thing is, because Crystal knows we had a good laugh about this last year with my grant writing business. I had started it back in 2019 and not really done anything with it. Again, fear of rejection. And so through the Amazing Woman Network, we have a program called Amazing Women Entrepreneurs. And she gave us the task to just show our website or brochure or something for our businesses. Now, y'all, I hadn't created any of this because I was afraid to put anything for the business out there. And so it literally took this assignment being put out there to us for me to say, you know what? All right, I will go through this process. I will create this website. I will publish it. I will tell people about it. And I still didn't do a lot of that because of fear, but it really took for Crystal to assign it to us and for me to say, okay, this is the push I need, because I was afraid of that rejection. So so fear is huge. It really can cloud everything that you do.
In all of the conversations that we've been having since we started these podcasts, the thing about reflection just keeps coming up, right? Like, and having to do that. So what was that reflection that made you recognize that, look, this is my bullshit that's in the way, right? Like, I've unpacked what other folks are doing and I can put that in that proper place. What was that reflection that made you realize, nope, now it's my bullshit, right? Like, now it's on me. I'm holding me back. How did you come to that realization?
Well, for me, I realized that I was afraid of things that hadn't even been said yet. So
Wow.
if I'm imagining conversations that haven't taken place, this is all me, because literally no one has said these things haven't happened. It's literally all in my head. So that's what made me definitely come to that realization.
I love that. Thank you.
And I have to echo what Kenyatta has said. That for myself personally is an ongoing struggle, because I think, we want to be our best. It goes back to, especially we as Black women, right? The way we are viewed and some of our assumptions. So in my opinion, and from my experience, we always need to be on and at our best. Because when when an opportunity presents itself, you want to be sure you're presenting fair and in order, because you may not get another shot, or your one mistake or that one error is viewed in totality for anyone who looks like us, who are trying to work in whatever spaces that we're working on, because we're representing the entire community. So I agree 100%, Kenyatta, and what I have actively been working on, especially, since COVID has been eye-opening for me. It forced me to really slow down and stop being available to everyone else to accomplish what it was that they were trying to do, but to really focus on what I've been placed here to do, which is to bring people together, to inspire people, to motivate people around the power of their voice, which is how I birth Empowered Voices, because all of our voices have power.
And that's such an interesting, that last statement that you said, Judy, is so interesting, because you have an organization. Your organization is about empowering others, right? And so often in that, and I know this is my own personal, I always say I need someone to do for me what I do to others, because we all need that cheerleader. And you all know I'm like the biggest cheerleader for everybody. You can't tell me you got a project, something you want to do, and they tease me all the time and say, "What's Crystal saying? What we doing?" Like,
Yeah, 100%.
what are we doing? I remember Michelle sent me a text message, and it was like this really, really big thing, and it had gotten confirmed. And I sent the text message back to her with like the little hand clap emojis and the lady dancing. And I said, I am literally over here doing a happy dance for you. And she responded back and said, I know that you actually are. And I think we don't get enough support. We don't get enough people saying you can do this. We don't have enough cheerleaders. And that negative voice inside of our head is louder than every other voice. Because the thing that you all both talked about was, what if no one buys it? What if I say the wrong thing? What if, and it's like, what if all of those bad things could happen? But what if the exact opposite happens? What if all of the good things that happens? And what happens if you don't walk in your greatness, if you don't walk in that thing that God told you to do? My biggest fear is never of dying. My biggest fear is dying and not doing this thing God told me to do. That's my biggest fear.
Right.
So let me just tell you a little bit about fear, though. This is going to give you some people, very few people, and I'm bringing this to the front so that you give yourselves a break, right? And that everybody that's listening gives themselves a break when it comes to talking about fear, because we've all heard the saying, if your dreams don't scare you, right, they're not big enough. The problem with fear is, so we all know the fight or flight response, right? So we have the midbrain, and in the midbrain, that is where creativity happens. That is where logical thinking happens, right? And so if you're in a situation where your life is in danger, the amygdala is that alarm that sounds, but it cuts off access to your midbrain and gives you two options: fight or flight, right? Because you don't have time to do rational thought with if someone's about,
Right.
you know what I mean? If the house is burning down, you don't have time for rational thought. And so when we have this great big dream or this great big assignment that they say it's supposed to scare you, it sets off the same alarm. And you lose the creativity, you lose the logical thought, and you stay frozen. And so ultimately what you wind up having to do, and it's the thing that I have to do every single day, I have to break it down to its smallest piece. What do I do in this hour? What do I do today? Because that I can handle. This whole big old empower Black women globally, blah, blah, all of that, that's that's like huge, right? That's way too big for me. So I have to, what am I doing this week? What am I doing this month? What am I doing in the next 6 months? And what happens when you break it down to that smallest denominator is new brain waves are formed. And then you travel faster and things start to happen faster and manifest faster due to those new brain waves. So fear doesn't motivate everybody. There's very few people that are motivated enough by fear to move into action. The rest of us, normal individuals, are frozen stiff. But what if you just did that thing? The world.
So a couple of things, right, bubble up for me. One, we have to remember that success, however we're defining it for ourselves, is never the light switch. It's a dimmer. And so we have to quit watching social media and all of these things that we see as instant success and feel like, right, so we get frozen in doing a thing because our success isn't going to be instant. Success is a dimmer. That's how you create sustainability. So think about it that way. The other thing that bubbled up for me is we are not even suggesting that everybody has to be an entrepreneur in order to define themselves as being successful. We want you to own your amazing wherever it is at, whatever it looks like for you. It just happens to be for us, right? Like that's the direction that we went in. You don't have to own your own business to be thinking about whatever it is that is keeping you from your greatness. What is your bullshit that's getting in your way? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. And so it's not Crystal's responsibility. It's not Judy's or Kenyatta or my responsibility to reach 10,000. That wasn't the assignment. The assignment is to live into your purpose, and God will bring the 10,000, right? So I never worried when I decided to do agency fitness whether I was going to have 1 client or 10. Didn't want any, just putting that back out there. Didn't start there, right? But I was obedient, right? Like I have a full-time job that I do still absolutely love. And there's an assignment for me to disrupt and dismantle racism and how Black women get to show up, should show up, and how do we push in and sit at the table, right? So that, for me, I felt like that was my assignment, and God put this other thing on me. And so I never worried whether or not I was going to have 100 clients or 1. My job, your job, is to show up and live into the thing that God has assigned you to do. And the rest of it, I promise you, if you stay diligent, if you stay faithful, if you stay true to who you are and the assignment that's been given, it will come. Success will come. And the measure is not on the clock. It's not on your clock. You've got to keep showing up. You got to keep doing the thing. And all of the reasons, all of the bullshit that we let get in our way that we're owning, right? Like, I think about it this way all the time. They're putting enough on me already. Why am I going to add my own bullshit to it, right? Like,
right.
Ooh. So let me, right? Like this piece I can control. So I need to back up out of holding it for myself because they're going to keep bringing it to me anyway. So yeah, how do we process that piece of it for us that they're going to keep giving it to us because they never wanted us at the table?
It's interesting you raised that, and actually going a little bit to Crystal, what you just said, but specifically to your points, Michelle, and to anyone who may be listening with an assumption that this is all about necessarily being an entrepreneur. As it relates to the nonprofit that I established, that is definitely my wheelhouse. I can respond, speak, do what I need to do at the drop of the hat to bring into the space from a professional perspective, a work perspective. I've 23 years, actually, yeah, this month, 23 years at Ford Motor Company, right? Have been at Ford, various assignments, enjoyed the career. As I mentioned, I work in international operations. Love this assignment. An opportunity presented itself, again, during COVID of all times, that I had to reflect heavily if I wanted to move forward in this space. as I mentioned, I am now a manager in this space. But the turmoil, and I use that term specifically because when you talk about reflecting, praying, asking if this is part of your assignment. And the reason I had to be humble and move forward in the assignment, several years that was part of prayer. What it is that you want me to do with my skills and talents. Michele, you made a great point in what the Amazing Women Network talks about. We as Black women owning our amazing and being in spaces. For me, at its core, is making sure I'm in spaces and at tables to speak for my people, speak for my sisters, to help be an advocate for my sisters at whatever level. I'm not a title person. I have a title, that's fine, but I'm a Black woman at the end of the day, right? And so when I decided to move in this space, the main reason for my decision is because I saw what was happening in the division of the organization that I work. And I saw that the few women or the few Blacks, you are not standing up for us at these tables, and you're not bringing more of us in these spaces, right? And so I reflected and I prayed and said, my timeline is X. I already have my exit plan together, right? So I can move into what my true passion is. But my time remaining in this capacity, what do I want to do with it? And fundamentally, it is to make sure people who look like me are at the table and have a shot and are not set up to fail, because throughout my career, this is what I see unless you're strong enough. And before I locked my hair, right, and folks kind of would look at me maybe a little different, I'm a little fairer, right? And, until I like sometimes talk and they see this other side, sometimes folks feel I'm a little safe. And I know our viewers understand what I'm saying. This is no bullshit. We keeping it real, because there's a time and place for everything. And we can be firm, we can be clear, and we can be very directional and intentional in these spaces. So Michele, I appreciate you being in your space to help move that needle. But to all of the women who are listening around the globe, this is what we are charged with in whatever space. You don't have to be a manager. You don't need to be the CEO. You could be working in the kitchen. You could be working in the plant. I don't care who you are, but we need to operate in one accord and keep each other lifted. I feel like I went off tangent a little bit because I started, and I tend to do that, but it was placed on me to say that. And I will stop right there. I feel I'm rambling.
I saw full connection.
I feel I'm rambling a little bit, but I digress, and I'm going to pass to Kenyatta.
Well, before Kenyatta jumps in, I just want to make another quick announcement. If you are watching us on Facebook, please jump into this conversation in the comment section, in the chat section on Facebook. We would love to hear from you. Miss Kenyatta.
The one comment I wanted to make, it was something that Judy said. I can't remember exactly what she said, but it made me think about another piece of bullshit that I deal with often, and that's feeling like once a decision has been made. For instance, Judy, you mentioned that you took on the position as a manager, and you said, like, for as long as you're in this space, the work that you're going to do. And I think that's really important, because I've run into a lot of situations where I felt like, okay, I've done this thing, like I've applied for this position, and the expectation is this is where I'm going to be for years or possibly for the rest of my career, because I work in a place where, while we're encouraged to move around to positions, a lot of people don't do that. And so it's some of the bullshit too is just remembering that, hey, just because you made a decision doesn't mean that you have to be stuck in that decision. You can move positions, because right now there's a position that I'm considering, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to apply for this. And if I get it, that doesn't mean that I necessarily have to stay here for 10 or 15 years or for the rest of my career until I retire. if I get that far, we'll see. But but you know, you always are able to make different decisions. You should definitely go where God moves you to go. And so don't feel like just because you have made a choice that you're stuck in that choice. We're never stuck. You can do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it.
Yeah. There's another place of fear that there are folks that are sitting frozen because it's not fear of failure. It's also fear of success, right? What if this thing, right? And we can what if ourselves on the other end of that in a way that it will keep us from moving, right? For me, as I watched agency fitness grow, I was afraid of what that success was going to look like. And I kept coming back to who much is given, much is required. And so all I have to do is keep showing up, and God will give space, give energy, give time that I didn't think I had in order to be able to help women own their agency in a way, right? Like, so I got stuck about this thing around success. What if, right? And having to pay attention to how I was letting that part of my bullshit keep me from stretching myself, right? Like, I'm not going to take one more client. I'm not going to do one more thing because I didn't see that I had the capacity for that kind of success because I was holding my own self up. And so I needed to pay attention to that as well. And so it's not even just fear of failure that we have to watch for. Don't allow fear of success to keep you from owning your amazing, to keep you from showing up and doing the things. Sit still for a moment, be in meditation and reflection, and trust that the assignment that God has given you is yours. And there is no failure in that. There will be roadblocks, there will be obstructions, there will be pauses, but there's no failure in that. When God has given you your assignment, success is on your horizon. You just got to stand there, trust, do the work, and keep showing up. It is coming. It is absolutely coming your way. The other thing that hit me that Judy mentioned, talking about how we need to be authentic and true to who we are, right? And that's the other thing of my bullshit that I had to find a way to unpack, because I would show up in spaces as a Black woman. They can't handle me being authentic. They can't handle me, right? Like, so I kept minimizing myself because they can't handle it. And then I had to, as I started really growing agency fitness and unpacking for myself and my clients what it meant to own our agency, I have the mantra. And every morning on Monday, we close class with this. I tell my clients, give them all they can handle and make them choke on the rest.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it is not my responsibility to keep me from the rest of you because of what you can't handle. Right? So Chris, I've been wanting to share, I have another client who has even flipped it because she's not owning her amazing. And she'll leave my class in the morning and say, if they can't handle your amazing, choke them. It's right there. She's just right there. Just choke them. If they can't handle your amazing, choke them, right?
And somehow I know
figure that piece
exactly
of
who
it out.
said that. Like, I know exactly.
Right? That's Danielle all day long. They can't handle it, choke them. Let them figure it out, right? Like, I'm done minimizing who I am.
I love that.
Because somebody else can't handle how authentic and true I am. Yeah.
Michele, that again, and I have to go back to corporate America, being more in leadership. And one of the reasons I would not go into leadership is because this is who I am. And I have to remind all of them, who you see, again, very professional, you know, I'm joking, all these things. However, I'm very clear, I'm very transparent. I can be very direct, I can be very firm. And we know, we as Black women, everyone cannot handle that. No. And in my work, my line of work, I am the only one, right? And so even being in this space and being very clear and firm, for a minute coming into the space, you're right, Michele, the level of the questioning, the doubt, am I doing this the right way? Until you got to a point where almost kind of what you just said, this is what it is. You knew what you were getting, you know, I was very clear in the process. And if this isn't what you want, then you can move me somewhere else, or I will move somewhere else. But own who you are and focus on, I know what I'm doing and I will deliver accordingly, and let that motivate. And for those who cannot handle how strong we are, because we know so many cannot in this current climate, that's their problem, not mine. But I had to move out of my way. That was part of my bullshit within the walls of corporate America, that I had to move out of my way. And the second point to add to the current about the hair, Crystal, you were talking about in the beginning, your mantra in terms of our looks and our image. I remember when I finally decided to lock my hair. I had been going back and forth with locking my hair for years, but I felt, oh, I'm in corporate America. That isn't corporate. That isn't. But I gotten to a point, I'm like, but this is what I want. Right. And I remember really reflecting. I had to find another hairstylist, and I just didn't want to go through it again. Was done trying to find someone to do my hair. And I had the conversation with my husband, and he was very clear. He's like, I don't care, whatever you want to do, it's fine. Who's my biggest champion and supporter. I had the conversation with my loctician, who gave me a list of things to consider before taking this action. And one of the things she even mentioned was about work. And it reminded me of an episode on Living Single. Remember when Kyle, he thought he wasn't gonna get the, because his hair was right. And so so when I finally went to lock my hair, right, because and I have a presentation to do I have this big presentation coming up, and I'm ready. I present all the time, but the night before I was filled with so much worry and anxiety. My husband was like, "What's wrong?" He goes, "What's your problem?" I was like, "I don't know. And then I paused and I reflected. And I said, you know what? I think it's going to be my hair. They're not going to value what I'm saying because of how I'm looking. He goes, what? You know the information, right? He's like, you're the one presenting, right? Like, well, yeah. So what does that have to do with how your hair looks? And he was absolutely right. I allowed my mind, the bullshit of my mind of assuming. Now, it didn't help. Once again, I'm the only Black person in the room, right? Presenting to all these white men, one or two women, but for the most part, men, and assuming that they weren't going to value what I was presenting because of my hair, how my hair looked. So get out of our own way. This is timely, Crystal. Thank you, Crystal and Michelle, for this discussion.
So Judy, down.
Yes.
The pause is always good. That's one of the things that I have had to learn in life. And I pause. I'm extremely slow to react and respond when something makes me feel a certain kind of way, because I have to figure out why. And it's me, right? First, why does it make me feel this way? Because that trigger is something we need to address and then heal from that. But when you're now standing in space, because I see you with empowered voices, and we've had tons of conversation. we've had tons of conversation, because what you do with empowered voices is so critical. That whole political education piece is it's absolutely crucial. And so I know on both fronts, there's always that battle. So now you have this new position, and then you still have to bring this voice to people. And in essence, you're bringing a voice to people in both of those arenas. What's the thing that you have to tell yourself repeatedly to get out of your own way? How do you manage that? After that pause, what's the thing that sets you in action to say, I got this?
What you just said, reminding myself that I got this. I start my day, so I have this routine every day before my feet hit the floor. I start off in meditation with 20 minutes of meditation. Beyond that, then I go into scripture, and then I go into positive affirmation. And then I remind myself on a daily basis that I asked for this. This is my assignment. The light that I bring in both of those spaces, because I am a light person I am an energy person. And so my energy is one of light and positivity. And that's what my focus is. When going back to the bullshit piece, I did go through a phase of the negatives because we allow all of the chatter of what's going on around us consume us. And that's both even in the empowered voices space because of what we're dealing with in the political arena. And I'm not, whatever we again stand from a nonpartisan position, but just politics in general, right? And when we focus on all of the noise and the rhetoric, that can be consuming as well. But what keeps me focused to do both assignments to the best of my ability is doing just that to the best of my ability. So bringing, if it's only one thing per day or interaction, if it's something that can help make change in whatever that space is, that is what I focus on. And being a resource point, especially in the empowered voices arena, being a resource point to so many people in our community, not just locally, but now I'm finding it in multiple states.
Ms. Kenyatta? What do you
Um,
do?
So I think the main thing that I tell myself is that I have to keep moving forward and it'll be fine. I really have to sum it up in that way because I tend to focus on the negative so often. I literally have to say to myself, it's going to be fine. No matter what the outcome of this is, you will be fine. Even if you're not fine immediately, you'll be fine eventually. And you just have to move forward because another thing that I'm heavily involved in right now is getting my house ready to be sold. And I struck Crystal's laughing because it's another thing that I've been talking about for over a year. And I'm literally just now moving forward with it. Why? Because I'm like, oh, well, what if it doesn't go? All these things don't look exactly the way it needs to look and all of that. And last month, I just had a moment where I said, you know what? I am tired of thinking about this. I have to move forward and it'll be fine. And so I think that a couple of days later, my realtor texted me to say, hey, where are we with things? I'm like, I want to do it exactly how the house is right now. And we're going to move forward. And that's what it's going to be. And it's going to be fine. Even if it doesn't come out exactly the way I planned, hey, that's not the way it's supposed to be. It'll be fine either way.
It's gonna come out the exact way that it's supposed to come out.
Absolutely.
We want to control these things and say, oh, I need it to be, this shade of red and this shade of purple, and we have to control all of that. And the craziest piece of that though is if we truly just look to the creator, it's gonna be better than what we ever could have imagined in the first place. And there's that 5-letter word called faith that you literally just have to get out of your own way and have that faith to know. One of the things that I always go back to is if God gave me the assignment, the only way it doesn't happen the way God wants it to happen is if I don't do my part. So the fear, oh my God, what if but what if it goes the exact way that God planned for it? What if I get to impact all of these women around the globe? What if, right, we get to do our part to end period poverty? What if all of the good things happen? And so I instantly, whenever the negative talk comes in, I instantly have to flip it back to the positive and, say, okay, well, let me just continue to be obedient. See what happens.
The one thing we have to remind ourselves in all spaces that we show up, we belong, right? Like remove that out of the equation. I don't belong, I don't fit, you belong in every space you show up. Take that person in the room with you. You 100% belong. How they handle you once you get in is not your concern. Let them unpack and figure that out on their own. Be bold, be audacious, but above all, be unapologetic. Whatever space you're in is requiring your presence. And no situation is ever made better without your voice in it. You have to show up in that way. You belong. You're already trying to convince 100 other folks to show up to your podcast, to show up to your event, when you haven't yet convinced yourself that you belong and that this is the thing that you should be doing. So while we're already trying to count the numbers, you forgot to count yourself. You belong in those spaces. Quit denying yourself and watch the rest of the world get on board. And quit defining yourself what the world looks like, right? Like God's going to control that thing, right? Like the world that you may be responsible for might be for people, right? Really interesting to me when Crystal came to me and said, we're getting ready to do this podcast, never once was about the reach, right? We never considered how many people were going to be on the other end of this conversation. We knew that the faces on the screen were change agents and their lives were going to be impacted and that message was going to carry. Never did we worry about that, right? Now, slowly but surely, people are saying, right? What's the next topic? I'm tuning in on Sunday. She just had to show up and do her part of the assignment because she knew that this is where she belonged. And I invite each and every one of you that are listening to be thinking about it in that way. In all of the spaces you belong, your greatness, the world is in need of it. Black women are in need of your story, in need of your strength, in need of your vulnerability to tell about the failures, the shortcomings, the how you came over stories. Collectively, we have to be responsible for each other. You belong in those spaces, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
So I just want to read something as we get close to ending this, and it's something that I actually wrote. And I think a big part of what I do with the Amazing Women Network was designed to also empower me, not just others, but also to empower me. And so some years ago, I wrote this, and so I want to read it to you guys so that when we are feeling a certain kind of way, questioning our own amazing, questioning whether or not we belong, questioning whether or not what we're supposed to do is going to be successful, I need you to remember these words. So the amazing Black woman. The Black woman has given birth to the world. All humanity flows from us, yet we are disrespected, beat up, and beat down. We are held back and told to stay in our place. However, we raise our children and the children of others. We sacrifice what we believe and who we are in support of others. We are the provider and the protector. We are the lover and the fighter. We are the motivator and the encourager. We are the healer of others, sometimes suffering in our own illness. We carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We pray, we march, we start movements and impact elections. We own small businesses and run billion-dollar corporations. We are curators and trendsetters. We live, we love, we create. We make it happen. We birth the world. We have changed the world. We will continue to empower the world. We were born to be amazing. It was established at birth.
Absolutely love
Well said. Absolutely.
it. Absolutely love it. So when you start thinking about how do you live into that purpose, recently saw something on Instagram that I want to share. When we talk about reflection, pay attention to the things, pay attention to your bullshit. 10 signs of self-sabotage, right? Like the world is doing it to you. Stop doing it to yourself. Top 10 signs. 1, procrastination, right? Like the killer of all things, the killer of movement. Get going. Today is your day. Own it. 2, Kenyatta is in recovery. Number 2, people pleasing, right? You allow that to be the bullshit that's holding you up, you will forever be pouring into somebody else and they will willingly watch you try to pour from an empty cup and won't pour back. Stop the people pleasing. 3, negative self-talk. We talked about that. Crystal gave really great examples of every time the negative builds up in her mind, that she's flipping that and feeding her spirit with something different so that that can be the thing that moves her forward. Waiting for the perfect time to start, right? Living into the ideal of perfection is a dominant culture value. In the work that I do, that we call that white supremacy values, right? This thing that you have to be perfect before you do that. We have to show up perfect before we do a thing. Do the thing God has purposed you to do. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Now is that moment. Not setting or upholding boundaries. How many of us are guilty of that, right? Not having the boundaries and allowing ourselves to be disrespected when somebody breaks that we have held for ourselves, or we haven't set it up in a way that doesn't give space for other folks to pay attention to what our boundaries are. Making excuses or justifying our behavior. Talked a little bit about that. Really paying attention to the excuses, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of it not happening, the fear of the what if. No more making excuses. Setting a goal without having an action plan, right? Time to stop daydreaming. Put that thing on paper. Watch the folks that you share that with, and they will help you give life to your dream. Put it into action. Are we all guilty? Number 8, surrounding yourself with unsupportive people. Check your tribe, check your crew, check your girl, check your circle, whatever terminology you're using these days. Pay attention. Again, the world is beating up on us enough. If you've got your circle who is not inspiring you to greatness, you don't have a circle. You need to check that. Number 9, getting off track when you start to see progress. That would be fear of success, right? Paying attention to that, being able to name it and not allowing that little bit of progress being the thing. You can't rest there. It's grind season. Push right there. Number 10, the worst offender of them all. Not keeping the promises you make to yourself. Got to pay attention, right? So every time you think about what's the bullshit that's holding me up, make sure that you're not on that list, right? Right? Be sure that you are your biggest champion, your biggest cheerleader. Make sure you're then surrounding yourself with folks who are cheering you on and are going to hold you accountable to achieving that thing that God has purposed you to do. Your greatness is standing in front of you. Don't let your own bullshit get in the way.
Absolutely. I just want to make a quick comment about the last one. I have a few trusted people in my life that I talk to about all of my struggles. And at one point I was having a discussion about like, why don't I trust myself a lot of times, because that's part of what stops me from moving forward, is not trusting myself. And I was told, you don't keep your promises to yourself. You will tell yourself that you are going to do all of these things and you don't move forward on it. And so now you started to not trust yourself because you don't do what you said you were going to do. So why should you trust yourself? You never make good on your promises. And so that was like a huge moment for me, because I realized I had to do everything I could to keep my promises to myself, even the smallest things. Like I tell myself on work nights, be in bed by 10 o'clock. So, hey, even if I'm not asleep, I will be in my room by 10 p.m. at this point, just to let my subconscious know you are keeping your promise to yourself. You said you will be in bed by 10. You are going to push forward with that. So it's really important. And that one piece of advice has made a huge change in my life. So you all please pay attention to that.
I love that, Kenyatta, that you're holding yourself accountable with the small things, right? And watch those things grow. You don't have to go for the biggest thing. You start to build those habits with the really small, and just paying attention to something like that can be the thing that turns the whole thing around. I really love you lifting that up.
I appreciate one of the pointers that you made as well that I wrote down, which one of my main struggles pre-COVID was definitely boundaries, especially in the space of being in community, being a lot of work. I do a lot of work in the community, and we have so much need. So I have a master's in social justice. So that is at my core, is doing work in that space to uplift underserved communities. And so what I found myself doing, and so from a empowered voices standpoint, empowered voices would get pushed on the back burner because I'm helping all of the other groups because there is such a need to motivate and to bring and to uplift. And it was still around voting and education, but it's under the umbrella of all these other groups that I did work with. And so that is a key for me. I wrote it in big letters and I'm going to put it on my board to really stay focused to the boundaries that I set for the work that I know that I'm supposed to be doing for myself. So thank you.
I absolutely love it. Great conversation as always. I swear this time just moves too quick because we could do this easily for another hour. But to those who have joined in with us today, I appreciate you so much. I love the fact that although this is called Amazing Women Speak, we every time have men that join in and listen in and give their input. So I thank you all for that. Next week, we will be talking about let's kill the strong Black woman already. Let's kill the strong Black woman already. So I think this was a great conversation. I am so grateful for you remembering all things you do. Always make it amazing. You owe it to yourself and you owe it to the world. I am Crystal L. Gunn. I am a Black woman and I own my amazing.
Speaking of owning your amazing, Crystal,
yes.
We have a question from the audience. Does the Amazing Woman Network have any mentorship programs or networking events?
Okay, I'm gonna give you the short answer is yes. Go to Amazing Woman Network, WOMAN.com, and I think you'll have the opportunity to subscribe. Do that so that you can then get an invitation to all of our things that are going on.
Thank you. So yeah, we'd like to close out these conversations by acknowledging the two most powerful and in some spaces dangerous things about who we are. My name is Michele Harper. I am a Black woman and I absolutely own my amazing. Judy.
Yeah, great conversation. And yes, in closing, I am Judy Neal. I am a Black woman and I truly, authentically, unapologetically own my Black woman amazing.
Yes. If they can't handle it, choke them.
Choke them.
Girl, that's my new one. I'm a note taker.
Come on in here, Kenyatta.
Thank you all for having me. And my name is Kenyatta Michelle Juniel. I will say my full name.
Yes.
I am a Black woman and I own my amazing.
Thank you. Thank you all again. Crystal Gunn, thank you again for being obedient to your assignment. You are changing lives and you don't even know the reach that you have. I am grateful to be able to call you friend.
I love you all. See you next week.
All right.